So this is a story about subtle fear-mongering as portrayed by the Jehovah Witnesses from my point of view after being married for a couple of decades to a Jehovah Witness. And in the beginning of our relationship, I would ask her a lot of questions and this and that. But I noticed, or it was quite obvious actually, that in the middle of the week, she would go to a person's house for Bible study. I think they called it the book study, where they split up into groups and go to a designated house or apartment or something to that effect, and conduct a Bible study, which in actuality is a book study, a magazine study. But anyway, I asked her, why do they, what's the reason behind that, or something like that. I was asking her back when, and my wife at the time, she or still is, she was telling me that in case the governments go after them, that is somewhat of a pre-designated group to where they can all meet up and go underground in case the governments or people or the situation it goes against the Jehovah Witness religion and the people that follow that religion. And at the time, I thought that was kind of weird, yeah, but I understood it, and I thought it was very practical at the time when I heard it. So I thought at the time I was thinking, good idea, okay. It could happen. I mean, it has happened somewhere in the world, for the beginning of time, just like that. So I didn't pay too much mind to it. And I think I went to a couple of them. It was actually somewhat fun in some of the other communities that I've attended, not in the community that I'm in now, because they had goodie nights there, a bunch of cook tidbits here and there, pastries and whatnot. And afterwards, we all got together and started talking. And the other communities that we used to live in, at the time it seemed quite normal, or I didn't get any red flags from anything. It was just normal conversations with people and whatnot. But I just went a couple of times or so and lost interest after that because it just wasn't my thing. So as many people know, or for those of you who do not know the Jehovah Witness culture, they did away with that arrangement. They did away with the book study. For some reason, there's a lot of rumors. There's no official reason why. They just did away with it. The official reason, from what I gather, is to save time and lighten the burden of the people that are out there having to meet each other in these homes and stuff at this time. But some of the other reasons were because people were getting together and they couldn't control that atmosphere there with the dogma and everything, and people started doing their own book study, choosing their own subjects and things like that, and they started to put two and two together and started, what I gather, questioning the society and their biblical dogma. So they did away with all that. That is the unofficial sort of conspiracy theory reason for they doing away with it. Who knows? So recently I was looking through my wife's phone. I sometimes use her phone as well, and it's not locked. And we have that type of relationship where it's pretty open. She could see my phone, I could see her phone, and conversations and stuff like that. But with common respect, I don't go into her messages or things like that or recordings. But seeing this particular group text, I knew it was a group text from her church, the Jehovah Witness congregation. And yet again, this is like a new spin to the book study sort of framework of splitting up into small splinter groups to avoid prosecution. and to be on the ground and things like that, but with a new sort of smartphone technology spin to it, other than the book study they had a few years ago. So now they're all in these group text. At least in my area here, they sort of updated their strategy for a group text within their service group. So I guess the congregations are split up into service groups, or I don't actually know how they split it up, but they're in smaller groups of people now, led by one overseer or an elder. So I'm looking at this text, this mass text to all the members of this particular service group, and they're starting this something new, and you can never get an official. Now, I wouldn't say an official explanation of something if you ask a Jehovah Witnesses about something like preparedness go bags. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about go bags or bug out bags, or like these survival bags that they use to travel to one place or the other in case of natural disasters or disasters in general, or wars or things of that sort, where you have to be somewhat of a refugee and move out. In the Jehovah Witnesses case, I guess it would be Armageddon, when everybody goes after them, all the governments and other religions and, bad guys on the street, where they meet up in the basement. And there you have your group again, your service group meeting up in the basement somewhere. So here's a screenshot of this particular text, and it's quite telling. This is somewhat confirmation from an elder in text form here that these groups are just another fear-mongering sort of tactic to get everybody in a heightened awareness or a heightened fear mode, to perpetrate their fear-mongering, pretty much, in my opinion. And it's a nice sort of, introductory text and everything, but right towards the end, I'll just read a little bit. Hospitality will give us an opportunity to get to know our group better before we all get stuck in the basement together. And as you know, in 2016, they had the basement, Armageddon basement scene or videos from that particular convention season of, Armageddon is taking place, or the tribulation, the great tribulations, and all these Jehovah Witnesses winded up in the basement with secret knocks and, their own little sort of group getting stuck in the basement. And here's this guy here, this young elder, making a reference to it, saying, it's nice to know each other before we all get stuck in the basement. So I thought that was quite telling and funny, and kind of sad that this sort of fearmonger is entrenched really deep, but yet not exposed to the wider community in general, meaning everyone else outside the Jehovah Witnesses. They will always downplay that particular scenario, or say, oh no, we just want to know about preparedness and natural disasters and things like that, for general preparedness. There's nothing weird about it, where even the government says we need to be prepared, but all this preparedness stuff and everything is with has a slight undertone of fear mongering, to get don't get prepared just for natural disasters, but get prepared for the Great Tribulation and all the prosecutions out there and things of that nature. So here's another mass text, group text to the Jehovah Witness group in this congregation about an upcoming class. I didn't know they gave classes at the Kingdom Halls. That's a first for me, I would think. Either that or I'm not really paying attention. to all they do. Usually Saturdays are they get together to either clean up the hall, the Kingdom Hall, or go out to their, door knocking service. But in this particular case, at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, it's going to be disaster training. So they're actually going to do some little in-house training about natural disasters or things of that nature. And I thought it was kind of funny that the dress code is service attire. So they're going to dress up for a training class in their suits and long dresses and things like that for something that actually a training class in disaster preparedness is somewhat physical. I mean, first aid, you got to get on the ground and, do CPR or build a fire, or a shelter. That's more or less a physical activity, hands-on sort of training rather than sit down and just, listen to somebody speak in the front there. I mean, it could be that too. Uh, and I've taken classes like that before, so uh, but I just thought it was funny that they're going to have to be in their service attire to take this class. And I know my wife didn't take this class because I would have known about it, and she probably would have invited me because I sort of like the natural disaster aspect of training and things like that. I like to camp and hike and be in the outdoors. So a lot of this is just that. So here it's somewhat of a little proof that it's not just out of the kindness out of their heart that they want to get into disaster preparedness and things like that to help their fellow humans, but it's more like a self-preservation thing for the Jehovah Witness group in itself. More so a deep undertone of mass sort of scare tactics too, just to keep on their toes pretty much. And this is somewhat, circumstantial evidence in my case here, seeing these texts that it's exactly that, a fear mongering sort of, technique there that they use in case they have to get stuck in the basement somewhere. That's definitely code. That's new Jehovah Witness code, and they have a lot of code words and phrases and sort of like an underlying culture about how they talk to each other uh, out in the open like that to mean something else. But if I were to ask my wife or her brother or anybody of Jehovah Witness community about the situation, it's like, oh no, they just the society cares about us and they just want us to be prepared for natural disasters, cause and of course that they roll that into a pitch that there's more earthquakes and tornadoes and natural disasters and wildfires and this, that, and the other, and they just want us to be prepared in case we need to, help people, but really help their own and help themselves. And it's a page right out of the, Cold War, out of in the 50s, and the United States government, I'm sure other governments as well, like the Russian and English and whatnot, Canadian, they did this same type of scare tactics to try to get you prepared for an eventual uh, collision or catastrophe that's just looming around the horizon. In that case, it was nuclear holocaust. No difference. This is just another chapter, another technique that they're using with the same sort of feel to it. Like I mentioned before, I do it just because I like to be prepared myself with my family in case the power goes out, and it goes out quite often where we live, and there is a possibility that we may need to evacuate our residents in case of a natural disaster. I won't say which one, But I do have go bags for myself and my family, and it's outfitted with food, water, and the three major items of shelter, water, and uh, and food to last a good week or two without self-supporting for 2 weeks or so. And I think there's a lot of these Jehovah Witnesses that are really out of shape, and I don't think they could hike a block or two without, keeling over from a heart attack if they're going to pack their go bags with, all these items. Plus, I think the society mentioned to have publications in their go bags too. I don't know if that's a joke from somewhere else, another source, or if it's official policy or, official uh, bag list item to pack up while you evacuate. I would say that it makes good fire tinder, so you can start a fire with the publications. And I'm being serious too. But anyways, I'm getting off course here. So I'm sort of changing my food items out of my go bags that I have to something more efficient, more lighter, and things of that sort. What I used to have is these military food rations called MREs, meals ready to eat. And they're like these bags, they weigh like maybe 2 pounds each, and they have roughly 1,200 calories worth of food items inside. It's already ready to go. You don't even have to heat it up. You just have to open up the packages and eat them. So I had a box of them of 12 meals that I've had for like a year or two. And I think they keep for like 5 years or seven if it's in a cool, dry place. But I wanted to move on to something else like dehydrated food, which would last for 20 years shelf life. So I was getting rid of these MREs because they're disgusting to eat. And it's just taking up space, and they're not going to last long anyway. So I was going to give them away. I think one of my brother-in-laws wanted it, but then another brother-in-law came to visit with his girlfriend. So they came over, a long week, and they stood at our house, and they saw that we had MREs, and he was asking what I was going to do with those, and I was like, oh, I was just going to give them away to your brother because I really don't need them. I'm moving on to something else, and he asked for them. He said, hey, can he have them? He wants those boxes. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you could take them. I gave it to him. And he mentioned that, yeah, he's got a couple of go bags and for him and his girlfriend, soon to be wife. And I didn't press on as far as questioning. I was like, oh, you have a go bag, so for what? Is this for Armageddon? So when you hang out at the basement and things like that, I really didn't want to sort of cross that boundary with him at that point with that particular questioning. But I definitely would have had fun asking him. But he did give me an excuse, but it was the cookie cutter, politically correct excuse that he would, or a Jehovah Witness would tell anybody outside the Jehovah Witness Society about the true nature of those go bags, which will fill a dual purpose: natural disasters and Armageddon, or the Great Tribulation. So I thought that was funny. And when I saw those texts in my wife's phones, that group text from our service group, that just brought it up to my memory there. And I have somewhat of a story to tell to pull all those things together into this mass hysteria of the Jehovah Witness with Armageddon and tribulations and disasters, death and destructions. It's pretty sad, but on the flip side, in my case, it's a little bit ironic and funny at the same time as well. So there's my Jehovah Witness Armageddon go back survival story, and just another layer of the Jehovah Witness culture of mass hysteria about things that are taken way out of proportion. As an added note that I want to ask my wife sometime in the future, I want to seriously ask her, but then again, record her reaction and what her response is going to be is to, I want to ask her, when you guys go out in the Great Tribulation or Armageddon or anything to your meeting place, I need to know where you go so I could protect, the front door of the basement. I'm going to insist on knowing where they're going to meet so I could go there and sort of, and I'm going to tell her I'm going to be outside the door with, to protect my girls or anything later on while the tribulation is happening. And I'm seriously going to ask her that. And also maybe a little bit later I'll ask her to, not only that, if it's a false call, I know where to pick them up when the Great Tribulation, is a flop, and I could go there to the basement and take them back home again. But it's gonna be quite interesting to see what her reaction to that question is gonna be. I mean, everything else is a surety to them or realistic, but how about the plan B? What if you have a worldly spouse that is there to protect them, surely I want to protect my family from, all the bad things that happen. So obviously I'm going to be nearby to protect them in my own way, since Jehovah's Witnesses will not protect themselves as far as fighting back or, armed conflicts or things like that. And I personally have the means to protect my family one way or the other. So she knows that right off the bat. So I'm quite curious to see or and hear what her reaction will be. Will she tell me where the meetup place is going to be, or maybe I should just bypass her altogether and just ask her elder, her group elder there or overseer, about where to meet in case something goes down. I need to be there outside the door there to protect the governments from crashing down to get them. I think that'll be quite funny.